Hey guys, so we are going to be looking at our leadership notebooks in this video, and we're going to talk about exactly what these are going to look like, what tabs we're going to have in our leadership notebooks, and some of the school-wide systems we have in place for leadership notebooks for this year. When we met with Sarah Ann at the end of the year last year, we talked about leadership notebooks as one of our deltas. That was something that we really wanted to work on and put in place as a big rock for the 2017-2018 school year. So some of the things we looked at were how we could bring consistency school-wide with our leadership notebooks, how could we ensure that they're developmentally appropriate, and how students can really take ownership of those. What can we take away from all the amazing things that we already had in our notebooks? And then also at the same time looking at what is leadership notebook worthy. You know, we had a lot of stuff in there last year, which necessarily might have had a better fit somewhere else instead of in our leadership notebooks. And then student goals, looking at, again, how we can increase our students' ownership of those goals and make goal setting more meaningful for them and more manageable for us, which is always a win-win right there. And then how can we refine the WIG pages in leadership notebooks? So at Lighthouse, we sat down, we looked at these deltas, and we worked to get all of these things in place. So when you look at our Lighthouse rubric, you can see that 8.2 is about leadership notebooks and that all students frequently use these. And we have a school-wide system that's improving this year. Woohoo! And then we have regular classroom routines. So we're going to break down all of this and go through this together. So the first thing that we're going to look at are the leadership notebook tabs. And so the leadership notebook tabs that you are going to have in your leadership notebooks are myself, my goals, my learning, my contributions, and my celebrations. We talked about making these developmentally appropriate. We all will have these same tabs, but what goes behind these tabs is really going to look different depending on your grade level. For instance, Sarah Ann mentioned a school that had a preschool, and instead of having a physical 3-ring binder with these 5 tabs and these things behind those tabs, they had these 5 tabs on an index card. And on the back of the index card was the pre-K students' maybe one-word mission statement. And then another index card was their goals, and it had their WIGs. So just making it developmentally appropriate for our students where they can take ownership of it. So the first tab is the Myself tab. And behind the Myself tab, you're going to have 3 things. You're going to have a mission statement, an autobiography, and a photos. So this is so when the student is sharing their leadership notebook with a community member, an accountability partner, anybody in our school, they can kind of introduce themselves. So this is an example that Sarah Ann had on her blog. It had the students' classroom mission statement and then their personal mission statement. Autobiography, again, this is going to look different pre-K to 5, but it can be any kind of project about that student, anything that you want it to be, that the student's proud of and that they want as the very first thing in their leadership notebook. And then the next thing are photos. So it could be a selfie of them and their teacher. It could be a selfie of them, a picture of them, something that they like to do, something they're proud of. Again, this is the first tab, so we really want, when our students are sharing their leadership notebooks, we really want them to shine during that section. So anything that makes them happy is a good thing to put in there. So the next tab will be the My Goals tab. And right here I have linked, Heather has made a presentation for you about WIGs and what those are, how to create those. And then that's right here. And she has also created a video. Down here, we have the link to the Leadership Notebook pages. And so I have those for you, and you can see that we have all kinds of different Leadership Notebook pages that you can choose from. Sorry, I don't want to make you sick scrolling. But I have created some examples for you, and I'm going to go through those. And you can just kind of pick which best fits your student. Again, an academic goal pick list. So, if you look, this is one WIG example. Now, I don't want to say this is a kindergarten example because you might have a first grader or a second grader or even above who developmentally, this is what they need. This is how they need to track their WIG. So I can, and then they chose the academic pick list, count to 5. So it's okay if for these students it's not written in an X to Y by when format, as long as that student can take ownership of this goal and they can communicate that their goal that they're working on is counting to 5. And then their lead measures, they pick 2 strategies. We have pictures that you can choose, or you can have your students draw. Their strategy 1 is to count with Miss Dyers 2 times a week. And strategy 2 is to practice on the app Toto Math 2 times a week. They chose their accountability partner to be Miss Lutz, and they are going to celebrate once they meet their goal by a hug and ringing the goal bell. So this is basically the whole WIG. And then over here is how they're going to track it. So their scoreboard, we have these sand dollars. So you need 10 practices. So each time they count with me, they're going to color 1. And each time they practice on that app, they're going to color 1. And then maybe on Fridays, I'm going to kind of just pull them over and see how they're doing. So on September 8th, they counted to 2, so not yet. Then the next week, they counted to 3, almost. And then we did it and we counted to 5. And then we get to add a scale to our fish, and we get to add this in a celebrations if we choose. And we get a brand new WIG. So that's a lower level example. And then we also have the See-Do-Get model. So the academic goal, I will go from my 2 times tables to my 3 times tables by October 13th. And then they chose their 2 lead measures, fact practice with a worksheet 2 times a week, and have Robert, which is an accountability buddy that they chose, test me every week. So you can see when they have the pink, those are those action steps, and when they're the green dots are those action steps, and then we get the results. And then same thing, they add a scale to their fish. They get to put their WIG fish up, ring the goal bell, whatever they choose to celebrate by. The next tab, so that is it for that tab. The next tab is the My Learning tab. So this is where your grade level specific data goes. This is where we kind of got overwhelmed last year. We put all kinds of these data recording sheets in the My Learning tab. So this is one that we use in kindergarten. We have sight word sheets, we have letter sheets, we have all kinds of different kindergarten curriculum, grade level specific graphs and charts. So something that Sarah Ann had told us, it's all good and great if, we have our little friend that's counting to 5. This is something that will live in their My Learning tab because they're still working on this daily. But if a child comes in and in September they count to 75 and in October they count to 100, and then they count by tens to 100. This does not need to live in their My Learning tab for the rest of its life. If they've mastered that, then maybe that's something they're proud of, they want to put it in a celebrations tab. But these are things that they haven't mastered yet. So things that they're still working on. So you might need to go up a grade level for some students to say, hey, what kind of data notebook things do you have behind your My Learning tabs that I could use for this student? Or even bump down a grade level and say, hey, can I borrow one of these sheets for this student because this is something that they're working on. So your grade level will have these tracking sheets for you. All right, so the next tab is the My Contributions tab, and I want to say this is one of the newer ones. We have these things, but we haven't always put them in behind this specific tab. So under this tab, you'll have two things. You'll have their leadership roles. They're in the classroom, the school, at home, in the community, things like that. And then their leadership clubs, which is something new that we are going to track school-wide in leadership notebooks this year. So the My Contributions tracking sheet, so these tracking sheets can be found on this leadership notebook pages document on pages 9 through 14. So I have two examples for you. So My Contributions, this is one of the leadership roles example. There is one a little simpler than this for maybe K1. And then there are also ones that have more reflection pieces for 3-5. So this friend is the greeter, and they wrote about why the role was important in the classroom, when they can complete their role, and if they need help, who can they ask. So that would live, that leadership role page will live in the My Contributions tab. Another thing we're adding is, as you know, we have leadership clubs this year. So the first club students go to is their leadership club, and then the second is their Sharpen the Saw club. So we made this little lotus diagram for leadership clubs. So when we switch clubs, they'll be able to fill in the different clubs that they've been in and how they're contributing during those leadership clubs. So this little friend is making contributions to our school community by being a leader in the beautification club. So maybe next time this friend goes to the decorators club and she draws a picture of herself here in the decorators club. And then the last tab is the My Celebrations tab. And behind that we'll have awards, certificates, photos, anything that they are proud of. Maybe it's shout outs. I know when my students met a goal and they went up to ring the goal bell, I would take their picture. And that's something that I could easily just print off and they could put in their My Celebrations tab in their leadership notebook.